All right, graphing tangent. So tangent, again, comes from the unit circle. We have discovered this. Here's just a stupid little pun because I'm being so punny lately. So sine gerene over cosine gerene is the same as tangerine because sine over cosine equals tangent. Okay, so that's what that's do. If you ever seen that, which like I'm not sure why you would, I'm probably the only one that like follows weird math things, but that's what that means. Which in this case, we know that sine is the y value, we know that cosine is the x value, so that means tangent must be the y over the x value. Okay, so let's go around this circle and let's figure out what the tangent of all these are. So tangent of 0, well, y over x, so I'm looking at this right here. Tangent of 0, so the y value is 0, the x value is 1, so 0 divided by 1 is 0, so that means that the tangent right there is 0. Okay, if I'm trying to find pi 6, or not, pi 6 is the same as 30. So tangent of 30, well, now I'm looking at this right here. So that's going to be y over x. So 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. Well, those 2's cancel, and I'm left with 1 over the square root of 3, which, rationalize it, is square root of 3 over 3. Okay. Tangent of 45, everything cancels, so I'm just left with 1. And then tangent of 60, square root of 3 over 2 over 1/2. 2's cancel, I'm left with the square root of 3. And then tangent of 90 is 1 over 0, which you can't divide by 0. The universe just explodes when you do that, and we go into a different dimension where there's no coronavirus. But, so that's undefined. I'm just kidding about the different dimensions. That obviously doesn't happen. You just can't. I mean, there are different dimensions, like I'm in a master's class right now, and we talk about like the 400th dimension, which my brain can't wrap its mind around. Like, what is the 400th dimension? What's going on there? But anyways, okay. So then we can continue this. So that means that the rest of these points are as follows. Okay, and you don't really need to know this, but this is where the tangent graph comes from. Okay, so let's click on this GeoGebra thing real quick. So here, we've already done the sine and cosine, but now let's do it with tangent. Okay, and I want to start at 0 here. So at 0, as we go along this graph, this is just dividing the y and the x value. Here we are coming up with this tangent graph here, which looks super weird. Like, this does not look anything like what we were doing with sine and cosine, right? Well, it's because of like this point right here. So this point right here, we're dividing by 0. Which corresponds with this right here, which means when you divide by 0, you can't have any points right there, because that's like the dimensions are just collapsing, and like who knows what's going on really, but so you can't, it's an asymptote right there. Like there's no points along that line. Same thing if we go down here to -1. There are no points at all along that line, which is where we're getting these graphs from. Okay, let's get back to this. So here is the tangent graph. This is what it looks like if we were to expand it out. Some characteristics of this is it starts low and ends high. The first point is always at the origin. Unless there's a vertical shift, then it's just like wherever that vertical shift is. The period is pi instead of 2 pi. Asymptote is pi halves. There's no amplitude, because amplitude is a high point, and in this graph it goes up forever, it goes down forever, which means you cannot have a high point there, and it repeats forever and ever and ever. So you start low, you end high, and amplitude is half of the period. So here, the amplitude is undefined. Anytime it asks you for the amplitude of a tangent function, it is undefined. There can still be an a value, but for as long as I've been in math, I've never really had to know, like, that a value just stretches it. That's all it does for the tangent graph. The period is pi over b, vertical shift is c, and the asymptote is the period times 1/2. Okay, so here, y equals 2 tangent of theta. So that means my a value is 2, my b is 1. I don't really care about the a value, though, because the amplitude's undefined, so it doesn't matter to me. The period is pi over b, so pi over 1, which is pi. And then the asymptote is the, oh wait, no vertical shift. The asymptote is pi times a half, which is pi halves. So I'm going to go over to pi halves and draw my first asymptote. Now notice here, there's like 2 spaces, right? I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to go 2 more. That's where my next line is going to be. Then I'm going to do the same. Okay, we start at the origin, start low and high. Halfway between, start low and high, start low and high, start low and high. Okay, the tangent graph is actually super easy to graph as soon as you start to understand it more. So this one, y equals 3 tangent of 2 theta plus 1. So A is 3, B is 2, C is 1. Amplitude is undefined. Period is pi over 2. Vertical shift is up 1. And the period is pi over 2 because pi over B, which B is 2. Up 1 because C equals 1. And then the asymptote is pi halves times 1/2, which is pi fourths. Okay, so first I'm going to go up 1, and that's my vertical shift. And then pi fourths, so if this is pi halves, this must be pi fourths, because half of a half is a fourth. Okay, now and then that means this is going to have a ton of asymptotes. So there's an asymptote, blah, 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 all the way along this. Okay. Then start low and high, and this just repeats for this entire graph. Cool? Okay, so y equals 4 tangent of 1/2 theta plus 1. So A equals 4, B equals 1/2, C equals 1. Again, that's not supposed to say asymptote. My bad. That should say amplitude. Amplitude is undefined. Okay, amplitude's always undefined. Period is pi divided by 1/2. So it's really 1 divided by half. Well, how many times does a half go into 1? Goes in twice, so that's 2 pi. Vertical shift is up 1, and the period is the asymptote is the period times a half, so 2 pi times 1/2, which is pi. Okay, so if I go up 1, there's my vertical shift. My asymptote there is at pi, and then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm going to go 8 more over to 3 pi. Start there, start low and high, start low and high. Cool? My tan lines are showing. Another meme, pun, whatever you want to call it. Thanks for watching. Miss you guys. Bye.